We're getting ready for the 2019 honey harvest. We've got 5 hives that we're harvesting from. So we'll open up the hive. Mike will hand me the frame filled with honey. I'll hold the frame and then use a bee brush, brush off any of the bees, and then put that frame into the empty box that's in the wheelbarrow and quickly put a bath towel over top of it to keep the bees from following the honey. The bees generally want to follow the honey, and we're trying to get all of the honey-filled frames back to the garage without any bees. So tomorrow when we spin the honey, we're not doing it amongst a bunch of bees. So we're getting into the dark honey here. Okay, so we're walking away from the hive now. This is almost a full box, 2 full boxes under. And it's a pretty good harvest, not as much as we thought we were going to get. But I think it's going to be right around maybe 180 pounds. Here are the frames in the garage. You can see that there's almost no bees here. There is one little straggler. I just saw him fly by. But that's the idea, is to be able to spin the honey without all the bees flying around us. When we pull the honey frames out of the hive, we separate the frames into light and dark honey. Here I'm using a tool to uncap the honey before putting the frame into the honey spinner. We always start with the lighter colored honey. Centrifugal force throws the honey against the side of the honey spinner, and then it flows down to the bottom. We've spun about 10 frames. All the honey has collected in the bottom, and it's starting to hit the spinner, so that's going to slow this down, and it's time to empty the first bucket. So now we'll open the gate and let this spill out. After spinning all the light colored honey, we'll move on to the darker frames, and you can see how much darker this honey is. And typically the darker honey is produced in late summer, early fall, and the lighter color honey is produced in the spring. These are the empty frames after they've been spun out. I'll pull the frames out, lean the frames against the fence, and over the next day or two the bees will come along and clean any honey that's left in the frames and put it back in the hive. Support for this episode is provided by Technor Apex, maker of the Zero-G hose, the hose that takes the work out of yard work. The Zero-G hose is absolutely the best garden hose I've ever used, and I highly recommend it. After letting the honey sit overnight, all of the wax collects at the top, and that makes it easier to filter the honey.
Is there a big difference between the light and the dark?
Not a huge difference, I don't think.
Yeah.
There is a difference, but not huge.
This light looks a little bit lighter than or darker than the spring, don't you think?
Oh, it's way darker than the spring.
Yeah.
I'll show you a jar of the spring, and you'll see how light it was.
Yeah.
It's the next day, and you can see the frames are full of bees, and they're just cleaning out any leftover honey. They'll take that honey, put it back into the hive, and I'm going to let these frames stay here all day today and tomorrow, since tomorrow there's no rain in the forecast. And then tomorrow around 6 o'clock, just as the sun is setting, most of the bees should be back in the hive, and then we'll take these frames and put them into storage. Now the comb is built out, it needs some repair, but it's much easier for the bees to repair this comb and start to build it out, and then use it again next year for storing more honey. Okay, so a pretty good year beekeeping. We did have a summer harvest also, and I think we got about 150 pounds in that harvest.
So all in all, a little bit more than 300 pounds. That's, I think that's a pretty good success. I was posting about the beekeeping on my Instagram. So if you're not following me on Instagram, I hope that you'll check me out over there. I often post little tips and tricks along with short videos of projects. Last week, I explained how to make this little taper here. I made the cut first on the table saw, and then I shaped this with a power plane and a hand plane. And those are the kind of things I like to kind of talk about. Just it's a little bit of a behind the scenes thing. So again, I hope that you'll check me out on Instagram. This piece that I'm building right now, this is going to be a Maker's Mob project. It's kind of a very modern looking entrance table, but I'm making it with reclaimed chestnut. And on my Maker's Mob, this will be a step-by-step instructional video, and there will be plans. So I hope that you'll check out my Maker's Mob. I'll have a link in the description. And you can also download some free plans while you're there, and maybe you'll find something there that will inspire you to get out into the shop. As always, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you next time.